This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
The biggest season in sports is shifting into overdrive, and the Desperado Sports Tavern has the fuel you need to make it to the finish line. By now, you've heard that the Despo serves the best wings around, but did you know they have a full menu with burgers, nachos, chicken strips, sandwiches, cheese sticks, and even steaks? Fill your tank, then wash it down with an ice-cold beverage or two. Keep your head in the game with 32 HD TVs and room for the whole crew. The Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
Registration for Kiwanis basketball is open now through December 18th. Kiwanis basketball gives middle school boys and girls an opportunity to compete on the basketball court in an environment that is fun and promotes good sportsmanship. It is a free program that is supported through the fundraising efforts of the Kiwanis Club of Missoula. Visit MissoulaKiwanis.com for info and to register.
Bethel Community Church offers a free clothes closet that is open to the public each Tuesday. There are literally thousands of new and gently used items for the entire family in virtually all sizes. There's a good selection of cold weather clothing as well as casual, dress, and professional clothing, shoes, coats, and more. People are invited to take whatever they need. Call Bethel Community Church for more information, 721-2780, or visit www.bethelmissoula.com.
This is Tom Scared for the Board. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour for children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to borgenproject.org. BORGEN.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.
Hello, Montana. It's Christmas Day in college football. National Signing Day. Too much? I don't know. Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you on this very fine Wednesday afternoon. Hope you are having a wonderful day. Thanks for spending some of it with us on your radios. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you would like to listen live, but you're not by your radio, or it's just easier if you're in the office or, I don't know, Europe. 1029ESPN.com. That's where you go. 1029ESPN.com. You'll listen live on the Listen Live tab. It's called a stream. It's available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you'd like to call, you can do that as well. 329-1899. 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show for you today. It is National Signing Day. We do have the list for Montana State, who has been signed. There's still a couple out there waiting to be done, but we will go through that with you, including here off the top sound. Bobby Houck had his sort of year-end / National Signing Day press conference today, so you will hear from him as well as from Justin Green. Also, Coulter was down at Sentinel High School earlier today and had a couple minutes with Jackson Lee, who is one of the signees of the Montana Grizzlies today, so you'll hear from him as well. It's also a Wednesday. We'll do a Wing It Wednesday. We got fun questions for you today. Coulter and I are going to do a little role playing with you on the Wing It Wednesday today in honor of National Signing Day. We're going to try and lighten it up around here a little bit. Coulter, what do you think? You're happy today? You're feeling it?
God.
Okay.
I'm so grumpy today.
We also, this is cool, looking forward to this. Joey McMurray, he's the voice of the Oregon Ducks. The Oregon Ducks are hosting the Montana Grizzlies men's basketball tonight, 9 p.m. on the Pac-12 network, so an extraordinarily late tip-off as far as it goes. But we will have Joey McMurray, who's been the voice of the Ducks now for about 4 years or so, talk about this team that is number 8 in the country coming into this game. The Ducks are, and the Grizzlies rounding out their non-conference schedule at Oregon tonight, and then they'll finish up at Omaha. So we'll talk to him. We also, in the next hour, we'll do another Wing It Wednesday, and then Dan Davies. He is the Associate Athletic Director of Internal Operations at Montana State. He was also a wide receiver for the Bobcats back in the day in the late 70s. He was also a coach on the Montana State Bobcats football staff in the 80s, and particularly 1984. In fact, he was a wide receiver, a scout player, but on the roster of the 76 team that won a national championship for Montana State, and then was a position coach in 1984 when Montana State won a national championship again, which is the last time that they won the national championship, but were also, of course, in the semifinals, the national semifinals. So I thought this was a good day to have Dan Davies on the show, and we certainly appreciate him doing this with us. So we'll bring that interview to you in the next hour as well. So there you go. That's how the show sets up. The show Outlook is brought to us by Shine Auto Detailing online. Go get your car looking great and also protected for the winter at shineautodetailing.net. Coulter, hello, Mike.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. We've already seen each other, but it's nice to see you again.
It's nice to continue seeing. That little back and forth is easily 5 seconds of this week's 2-minute show. Coulter, it's National Signing Day today.
It's opening of the National Signing period, the first early. It's not National Signing. National Signing Day is the first Wednesday.
It's National Signing Day today.
It's not, dude. You have to call it what it is. National Signing Day remains on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of February.
If I was to say this again, what would happen?
You can call it whatever you want. If you're listening to the show today, it's not National Signing Day. It's the opening of the early signing period, which lasts 3 days. Then it goes dead for a month. Then they have more recruiting in late January to early February. And then National Signing Day is the first Wednesday of February.
My guess is that's going to change because all of the signing, Coulter's drinking iced coffee. And
they don't give me straws anymore. They tell me it's going to ruin the world.
I don't know. I've muted you because I just want you to drink your coffee in peace. I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy right here. Why your misery puts me in such a great mood, I don't know. There's a word for it in German. It escapes me now. Why there isn't a word for it in English, I'll never know. Coulter, it's not National Signing Day, but 90+% of the signees that are going to happen in college football did happen today, or last however went since it's been available for it to happen. And this opening day of the early signing period, is essentially the National Signing Day, where everybody's assigning as to who won the recruiting battles and who got all of the guys that they wanted to get and so on and so forth. And it's interesting in the state of Montana for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it is not the only state, but it is one of the states that has an obvious and clear rival within its own border that is an equal. It's in the same conference and at the same level. Iowa and Iowa State, for instance, are in two different conferences. So there's, a disconnect there to a certain extent. They're also, because they're in the FCS, don't have a gap from the last game of the season, whether it's a regular season or even a conference championship game, to whatever the bowl game is that they're playing in. That is a natural place in which to do the recruiting that would now begin and happen right now, like you have at the FBS level. And it also is interesting in the fact that the state of Montana, by and large, delivers the best players in high school to the two schools in the state. So rare, it certainly happens, but it doesn't happen often, but it does happen where a kid from the state of Montana goes and plays in the FBS somewhere, whether it's a Mountain West or Pac-12 or what have you. Generally speaking, that doesn't happen. The best talent in the state of Montana overwhelmingly stays in the state of Montana. And by the way, doesn't often go to other like schools out. Like, rarely does a kid from the state of Montana say, I'm going to go play at Idaho. I'm going to go play at North Dakota. I'm going to go to an FCS school that's not in the state of Montana. So the ground that is the state of Montana is sort of hallowed in that country football way, because the best recruits are, in general, staying here and being split between the two schools in Bozeman and Missoula. And I think that is pretty unique. I think that's pretty unique. Even in Alabama, Georgia can fight a good fight for a couple of kids in the state of Alabama. And obviously Alabama dipping over into Georgia or Mississippi or whatever it might be. That just doesn't really happen here. And I find that cool and interesting. And also, in a lot of ways, the assessment of what happens in the state of Montana and the sheet that you have in front of you between the Grizzlies and the Cats and who they got, not just the numbers, but the names, is the beginning and the end of who, quote unquote, won the recruiting battle. And so as you've looked at this, and a different deal too for Montana State, because they are preparing for a game on Saturday, so they got a whole different sort of set of trying to get this done on the fly while they're still playing football that they got to figure out, which is sort of a two-sided coin as well. But when you look at the names that are on the sheet and start with Montana, what do you see?
I think that your point is well stated, because I think that there's so much talk about the in-state recruiting battle and there's so much emphasis put on it, and I think that's all it's emphasized to a proper level. But I think that people miss why it's so important. It's not just about putting people in the seats to watch Montana kids. It's because so often you're going to be your best as a college football player as a fourth-year junior and a fifth-year senior, or a true junior, true senior if you're really a good player that got to play early.
Right.
But that's just how long it takes you to physically develop, and most of the guys you're going to be playing with and against around the league are also going to be older. And I think that when you're talking about remote rural places like Missoula and Bozeman, they're not remote and rural compared to the rest of the state of Montana, but they are certainly off the beaten path when it comes to the rest of the United States of America. And I think that when you get kids from Huntley Project and Big Timber and even just Kalispell, it's just a lot easier for the kids to, first of all, stick with it, to acclimate. I mean, what are the reasons that kids leave? So often it's they miss their family, it's homesickness, it's lack of opportunity. But in Montana, I think Montana kids understand, first of all, how many kids have gone from nothing to everything in these programs. The fact is that if you work hard, you put your nose down, the chances of you actually rising up and getting a chance to play are very good. And I think that's why we see so often. I mean, like, look at a kid like Josh Hill who plays inside linebacker at Montana State. Like, that dude, he doesn't have any of the physical gifts that you'd want out of an inside linebacker. And he's a first-team all-league guy because he stuck with it.
Yeah.
And he wanted it his whole career. Like, look at a guy like Josh Sanders. Like, Josh Sanders is not getting recruited by really anybody besides Montana coming out of high school. That's it, Montana. And he's a 3-year starter and a 2-time All-Big Sky guy because of how much it meant to him. He wanted to be a Grizz his whole life. And so when I look at the in-state guys right now, I thought this was an interesting year in Montana. I thought that there was a bunch of like pretty good prospects. No like crazy world-beating prospect. Excuse me. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing either, though, because I think that we've seen a lot of kids that are like true top shelf blue chip type guys, blue chip under the lens of a Big Sky Conference recruit,
right?
That have been just sort of average or not very great. I mean, we did the thing on the Gatorade Player of the Year. A lot of times the Gatorade Player of the Year has not become the best guys in Montana, and then you have guys that are partial scholarship guys, even on the Montana level, that turn into great players. So I thought the state of Montana was pretty good. Montana State signed 10, Montana signed 7. I don't really know. This is the first year I don't have a definitive opinion on who won the state, because there's not a Gabe Sulcer. That's, if you got this guy, you got a leg up. There's not a Troy Anderson. If you got this guy, you got a leg up. I think Carson Rostad from Hamilton is a good player, but I think he's a developmental guy. He's going to have to get a lot better. I think that it's unique, too, because you have Gatorade Player of the Year signing with both classes, because Carson Rostad was the rare junior winner. So each school is adding a Player of the Year for Montana. And I think Tommy Malot's a good player too. But both of those guys are so far away from what they could be that I don't really know how to evaluate the in-state recruiting battle.
You asked a great question of Justin Green, who was also at this press conference. He is the recruiting coordinator for the University of Montana, about Carson Rostad. Here it is.
Have a guy win Gatorade Player of the Year as a player in the state of Montana. But Carson Rostad won it and then was one of your guys' first commits in this class. So how much momentum does that give you in state when you do get one of the top guys to commit to you early on?
It's good, and with the way social media is today, he becomes a voice box, a mouthpiece, a vital. He becomes your queen, so to speak, in chess, as the focal point of bringing it in, because of, like I said, it's loud. The position he plays also with that speaks loud. So to be able to have a guy commit to you as early as he did, and be excited about being here, it says a lot.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, like you said, when does each school get a Gatorade Player of the Year in the same year? But they did this year because, there were 2 available, because Carson Rostad was it last year as a junior. But as Justin Green said, he said something that I think is really key, and I don't think whether they get it, whether they I think that both Bobby Houck and Jeff Choate understand it, but I don't think that they even have the capacity to appreciate it. They just know that it's true, but there's nothing they can't really talk about. And that's the social media aspect of this, from the kid to the other kids.
Yes.
It's one thing in the 80s when the paper reports, hey, this kid's going to the school. The radio says this kid's going to the school. And other kids hear that or read it and we're like, oh, you're in the paper or whatever. And maybe another kid is influenced by seeing that. It's a whole different deal when the kid himself is following all the kids that are in his class, not just at his school, but around the state, that play in, the Shrine games together, that play in the All-Star games together. And then he says, I'm going to be a Grizzly and I'm going to be a Bobcat. And what that influences the other kids like. And they're talking too. I mean, it's not just the tweet or the Instagram or whatever. It is the communication, the back and forth that is happening directly and publicly, if it's on the social media platform, that matters so very much. And it matters, like you and I just don't appreciate how much it matters to these kids. We don't understand why it matters to these kids. We would probably say you're idiots for having it matter to you, but not the kids going to school, but the social medias in general. Okay, but it does. They're very influenced by this. They're spending a lot of time participating in this. They want people to, know them, note them, be known by other people, and so forth. This is how they're doing it, and so then it matters. And I think Justin Green pointed that out, really well right there, because that makes him a mouthpiece for your university in virtue of just signing with you and then doing what all the kids do, and they follow that.
Totally, and you saw it with Carson Rostad committing. I mean, he was the first in-state commit for Montana, and then they got Jackson Lee within the same week. And Jackson Lee was considered one of the top 5 prospects in the state right away. But then Montana State answered with several other different guys, including Tommy Malott. So there was a lot of tit for tat going back and forth. As far as the really intriguing prospects to me that are from the state of Montana, I'll give you a couple from each side. I think for Montana, one of the kids I'm really interested to see how he grows is Journey Grimsrud. He's from Huntley Project, but this is he's like the quintessential guy who he's a 6'4", 245-pound dude who has played multiple sports all through high school. He's never been sports specific. He's probably never had a chance besides in the summer to really pound in the weight room and try to work on his body. But he's a state champion discus thrower. So that means he's got good feet. He's got good balance. He just seems like a guy that could just become rapidly accelerate physically.
It also means he's got great hips, Coulter.
That's right.
Right.
Hips is so important though in this. And
it is.
I think he's got a lot of upside. The other kid who was kind of off the radar, because I'm not sure he actually even has social media, but hearing from people up in the Flathead, Henry Noose is a guy that is an edge rusher from Kalispell Glacier who I've heard a ton of good things about. And, the skill guys, Jackson Lee, Carson Rostad, Asher Croy, which I thought was surprisingly, they're playing the guy who rushed for 333 yards in the state championship game on defense. This says linebacker, not running back. So I thought that was interesting. We'll see if that sticks. But, guys like Drew Deck, Asher Croy, Jackson Lee, Carson Rostad, people kind of know what those guys are like already because those are the guys that are on the TV news. Those guys are the ones that get the Twitter highlights. But those guys all have a chance to be good players. But it's the offensive and defensive linemen from the small towns in Montana that are the guys that almost always they just have so much upside because they've never been sport specific. They never trained at a college level. And when you have the base, when you're already 6'4", 245, you got a good baseline. So I think that the Grimsrud kid is a really intriguing one for me out of the 7 Montana guys that Montana got. And then at Montana State, McCade O'Reilly is an intriguing guy just because both of his brothers have done it. So he's got a blueprint. Peyton O'Reilly, his oldest brother, he played at Miami of Ohio. And Callahan O'Reilly is the inside linebacker right now for Montana State. And he's the leading tackler for the Cats. So they've proven those guys know how to navigate the college game. I think that gives you an advantage when you have somebody close to you that can kind of give you advice on how to make it. And I also thought O'Reilly was a really good player before he broke his ankle this year. Obviously, Tommy Mellott is a really intriguing one because he's a ridiculous athlete. He's also 6 feet tall. So we've talked all along. I think these coaches, especially at the Big Sky level, should just throw out a prototype of what you need out of a tall quarterback because the NFL's already done it. So why wouldn't you? Think of there is multiple starting quarterbacks in the NFL that are 6 feet tall right now.
No doubt.
Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, on down the line. And in the Big Sky Conference, you got a Case Cookus, but everybody else is Kevin Thompson, who's 6'1", or Eric Berrier, who's 5'11", or Davis Alexander, who's 5'11", or Jake Mayer, who's 6 feet tall,
or Tucker Rovig, who's 6'5", and Casey Bauman, who's 6'7".
And those guys are not in the same league, even close to the same league as that's what I'm saying. The short guys are the ones that rule the Big Sky. So just saying, when Tommy Mellott is in the quarterback line and you're looking at 6'7" Casey Bauman and 6'5" Tucker Rovig, well, I don't know. I think you just need to get rid of the preconceived notion that taller is better. Right. But then the last guy, I think this guy is the single most intriguing player that was signed by either school. Single most intriguing. We talked about this guy in our sports center a couple times, even though he's from Melstone, Montana. Do you know where that's at? Yeah, me neither. Somewhere east of Billings.
Which is half the state.
I honestly, I do not know where Melstone, Montana is.
I looked it up, actually, the day that we talked about this, just because I nerd out on that geography stuff, but I don't recall.
Looks like it's in the it's in east central Montana, sort of. So short of Miles City and Glendive, but east of Billings. Regardless, Brody Grebe scored something like 3,300 points in high school basketball. We started talking about him because he was on his way to becoming the all-time leading scorer in high school basketball. Then at the Class C track meet, he won 4 individual events. And in football, he was impossible to evaluate because he's playing 6-man football. But the kid is obviously a great athlete, and he's a 6'3", 225-pounder. Well, he went to a prep school to get himself recruited for it. The prep school, of all the names that could be named, is called Choate Prep. On the other side of the country, what are the odds? He signs with Montana State today. But I was making a couple phone calls when I was driving back from Bobby Houck's press conference, and I got it from good sources that this kid got offered a basketball scholarship by Danny Sprinkle coming out of his time at the prep school, and that he also received a football offer from Iowa. 6-man to Iowa.
About that.
But if you have that sort of upside, and you're talking from 6-man football in Millstone, Montana,
right?
But then you proved it enough to get a Big Ten offer in 1 year at a prep school. I think you could say that guy has a lot of upside. He will be very intriguing to watch.
Let's hear what Bobby Houck had to say about his class in general.
Like the class, feel like we covered our board pretty well, got what we needed. Thought we did well in the state of Montana, maybe exceedingly well. Really excited about those guys. Obviously, that's the thing that's near and dear to my heart in terms of who we recruit every year.
Well, there you go. I mean, again, it's what you expect. It's going to be the same thing every December the 18th or whatever the Wednesday turns out to be. Guys say, we're pumped up about the class, feel great about what we did in the state of Montana, and on down the line, and we'll find out if it's true in 3 years or more from now. Coulter, one guy you did talk to today, Jackson Lee. Speaking of small-time football-ish, 8-man football in the Phillipsburg Drummond Co-op. Spends 1 year playing 11-man at Sentinel this year. Had been committed to go to the Grizzlies. He's official. You went and talked to him today down at Sentinel High School.
You want to know, this is such an underrated thing. If I was a college football recruiter, I would take this into account as much as anything. You want to know what the single most impressive thing about Jackson Lee was today? The way he shook my hand and looked in my eyes when I introduced myself. I would evaluate so much of a kid on that. And maybe that's old school. Maybe that's backcountry Montana. But the kid gave me a firm handshake, looked me in the eyes, and said, "Nice to meet you." It wasn't like this nonchalant, like my old man used to say, baker's handshake. Like this was a good handshake, and he was engaged. He was polite. That's the kind of stuff. That's where I would evaluate kids in recruiting. Because like Bobby Houck said, if you're trying to do plug and play and get a bunch of 3-star recruits to help your program in the FCS, it's not going to work, especially not in Montana. It's all about projection. It's all about development.
What do you say when I come up and just hug you? Do you like that greeting?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
You project yourself as a very friendly person. If I was recruiting you, I'd say you are a very team-oriented guy. You'll fit into a locker room great.
Team-oriented, yes. Tough, perhaps not so much. All right, it was a great interview. Just a couple of minutes here. Jackson Lee, the new Grizz commit from today.
Down here, Missoula Sentinel with Missoula Sentinel senior Jackson Lee. He's about to sign his letter of intent to play for the Montana Grizzlies. Jackson, I know you committed early, so a lot of time to think about this. And you've been a future Grizzly for a long time, but you officially become one today. So what's this feel like?
Oh, this is pretty cool. It's kind of a lifelong dream, so I'm pretty pumped.
Grew up in Phillipsburg, played for Flint Creek, so moving to Missoula, what'd you think of just the opportunity to come play for the Spartans, and what'd you think of your first year playing 11-man football?
11-man was sweet. It's definitely a lot different than 8-man. Kids are bigger, kids get harder. I don't know. Football is football wherever you go, but it was awesome. It was worth it.
Bigger kids hit harder, but less open space, right? So what are some of the just compare and contrast the 11-man game to 8-man?
Well, 11-man has a bigger field, and you have people that have to fill that, but honestly, I felt like it was a little bit wider. I don't know, though. I really wasn't that much different other than 8-man moves a little faster. But football is football, like I said. It's not much different.
I know Coach Oliver, he's done a great job of preparing guys for the college level, and he runs Sentinel much like a college program. So what sort of things did you learn from him that think maybe has you ready to make the transition?
He teaches little things. He teaches detail. He's big on his detail. He just kind of prepared that's what he told me when I first got here. He's like, yeah, I'm coaching here for after high school, not for the high school time. So I think that's kind of big as he focuses on guys afterwards rather than just while they're here.
Growing up in Montana and Western Montana, I know you probably had an eye on the Grizz for a long time. So what sort of things did the Montana coaching staff sell you on? What do you like about the program you're about to join?
Yeah, I grew up coming to the games. I had season tickets. So I've always been coming. And then Coach Hout coming back, he brought me in his office. He's like, if you want to win a championship or play in the NFL, this is the place for you. And that was it. It was game over. And then They got Wall Grizz in the Champion Center. There's just nothing that compares to Grizzly football.
Who's your favorite Grizz growing up?
Mark Mariani and Chase Reynolds.
Those are good, both good buddies of mine and both good guys to idolize. Chase is a great example, though, of a guy that can go from a small town to Montana and then to the NFL. So how much does that inspire you, knowing that there is a path already been walked before?
Oh, it's awesome. You go to Drummond, obviously we co-op with them, so I'd go over there and you'd see his records on the boards and you compare yourself. I kind of want to see what you're compared to high school. Chase is cool to see. Obviously, if you put in the work, it's possible, so I think that's really cool to look forward to.
Jackson, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
There you go, Jackson Lee, committing to the University of Montana, and a guy who definitely came with, a lot of people talking about this kid coming out of 8-man and going to 11. I thought it was interesting, too, that, the field's bigger, but it almost felt like there was more space, even though there's obviously more people to work with in the 11-man game. And for a guy like that, who that's where he lives, man, is with speed in space, making guys miss. Kind of an interesting analysis. But again, like you said, none of these guys, and like the coaches have said as well, none of the guys signing today are showing up on September the 5th, the first day of the season, and first of all playing at all, or second of all, starting and stuff like that. The couple exceptions.
There's one guy on each side.
Transfer.
And they're transfer quarterbacks.
That's right. So, Coulter, nope, we're going to come back to it. Okay, we don't have time to do it right now. The transfer quarterbacks for these two schools out of this class are being completely undersold right now by, let me say, I think that they're a bigger deal than what is being led on.
Especially the one on the other side of the continental line from where we're sitting.
See, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it right after, when we get there. We'll talk about it in the next hour, probably, when we're going to get to it. Because right now, here's what we're going to do. A Wing It Wednesday, 329-1899. 329-1899. This is going to be fun. Okay? You callers are going to win wings. Okay, I'm going to start with that. You're going to get wings. Why? Because the questions you're getting today are subjective. You're going to project Coulter and I to a college at a position. Okay? That's what's going to happen, and we're going to tell you how close or not you are. 329-1899. Give us a call. We'll do a Wing It Wednesday, 3 questions from Coulter and myself and what we would be as high school recruits going to play Division I football right after.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Down come who pump it up.
Don't cook dinner. Stop by the Town Pump Deli and pick up a 2-piece chicken and JoJo's with ranch for only $3.49. Want a great beer to go with it? Grab a 12-pack of Modelo for $11.99. Town Pump, right down the road.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, yeah.
Hey there, Coulter Nuanez from your favorite daily sports talk show, Tootell Nuanez. I'm here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom, last winter I got a sweet car starter. It's something I think everybody needs.
Coulter, I couldn't agree more, and my wife sure thinks so too. We've got a lot of sweet deals. We actually have it capable now where you can start it from your phone from anywhere you'd like. We have 2-way remotes that'll confirm to you the vehicle started, all the way down to our basic package starting at just $299 installed. Come on in and check us out.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Gifts from Florence Coffee Company are as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, buy a $20 gift card and receive one $5 gift card free. 2, pick up a gift bag complete with mug, coffee, and a $10 gift card, all for only $25. 3, choose from a selection of winter travel mugs. 5% of all gift card sales go to the Montana Food Bank. Go to any Florence Coffee location or go to florencecoffeeco.com.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
Nuanez. Americans waste 3.8 million gallons of gas by idling every single day. Idling for more than 10 seconds actually uses more fuel and produces more emissions than stopping and restarting your engine.
Vehicle exhaust contributes to smog, climate change, and poor air quality, heightening the risk of developing asthma and lung disease. Kids and seniors are especially vulnerable to these health risks.
So next time you're stopped for more than 10 seconds at the train, getting coffee, or picking your child up from school, please turn your vehicle off.
Brought to you by Missoula in Motion.
Registration for Kiwanis basketball is open now through December 18th. Kiwanis basketball gives middle school boys and girls an opportunity to compete on the basketball court in an environment that is fun and promotes good sportsmanship. It is a free program that is supported through the fundraising efforts of the Kiwanis Club of Missoula. Visit MissoulaKiwanis.com for info and to register.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. The early signing period for college football opened today with national letters of intent coming through for both Montana and Montana State. Notably, it's not National Signing Day. Let's be very clear. The University of Montana, they signed 14 players this morning, 17 in total, including 6 from the state of Montana. Actually, 7 from the state of Montana, I think it ended up being total. That includes Hamilton quarterback Carson Rostad, who was the 2018 Montana Gatorade Player of the Year and the all-time most prolific quarterback in Class A history. UM also received letters of intent from Missoula Sentinel running back Jackson Lee, Kalispell Glacier wide receiver Drew Deck, and Wolfpack defensive lineman Henry Noose, among others.
The Montana State Bobcats signed 21 players, actually 22 by the time all the letters rolled in, including 2019 Montana Gatorade Player of the Year Tommy Malott out of Butte High. Malott led Butte to its second Class AA state title game appearance since 1991 by throwing for nearly 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, rushing for more than 1,200 yards and 16 more scores. He was one of 10 from Montana to sign with Montana State, including Bozeman inside linebacker McCade O'Reilly, Bozeman quarterback Jake DiAgostino, and what Jeff Choate called the cherry on top, Brody Greavy from Millstone, Montana.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
We've got the phone sorted out, so give us a call. 329-1899, 329-1899. We'll do a Wing It Wednesday. We want you to project Coulter and I as college football recruits. This is going to be fun. 329-1899. Give us a call right now for a Wing It Wednesday. We'll send you to the Desperado Sports Tavern with free wings. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you want to find us on the social medias, that's great. You go ahead and you go to at 1029ESPN, at 1029ESPN. That is on Twitter and Instagram. You can also go to at Gus Tootell and at Skyline Sports MT. We go down to the phones. We welcome in Jonathan to the show. Jonathan, how are you?
Doing good. How are you two doing today?
Outstanding, Jonathan. So we got a little different deal for you today, okay? You still got to answer questions, but it's a no-lose situation. But here's what we're going to do. Now, are you familiar with the show at all? Have you listened to the show a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay. So our dear friend Coulter over here, you got to assess him, his personality, what you know of his body type, if anything at all, and what you think about him as you've sort of gotten to know him as a radio guy. And here's what you got to do. I'm going to ask you 3 questions about Coulter. If he was coming out of high school, what position would he be playing? And if you want to, how many stars would he be? What college is he going to? FBS, please. FBS, please. What university is he going to go play college at? And he will reveal his choice. And then finally, how would he reveal that choice? Is he putting a hat on? Is he tweeting about it? Is he calling his mom? How's the thing working out? What is his preferred methodology for announcing the school? Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. I think I got it.
Okay, here we go.
Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot. Tell me likey. Tell me want wingy.
Okay, Jonathan, here we go. Question number 1. Coulter Nuanez. He's a high school recruit. He's signing today somewhere, but before he signs, he's got to have a position. What position is Coulter playing, and from what, and how many stars is he?
All right, so Coulter, he's got a pretty strong intellect. He's got a pretty strong memory for stats and all those different type of things.
That is a fact.
Honestly, I definitely could see Coulter in the secondary on defense, probably somewhere around the safety region versus a cornerback.
Oh, man, that is a hammering safety.
Oh,
Coulter
buddy, I don't think there's a lot of 6'1", 250 pound
coming downhill at you. The speed. Think about the speed love that you're getting here. From
man,
Jonathan.
I'm running like a 5'1", 40.
But you got to remember, he'll be able to knows the schemes and all those things, so he'll be able to jump the routes a little bit more.
Okay, how many stars as a safety, as a thoughtful offense reading safety? How many stars coming out of high school?
All right, I'm going to go with 4 out of 5.
4-star safety recruit Coulter Nuanez. Now, Coulter, what is the answer? What position are you in your mind, and how many stars are you?
I would be a 1 or 2 star center, depending on where I grew up.
Okay.
1 or 2 stars.
Okay, you were not close, but it doesn't matter because it's still just your opinion. Here's question number 2. What university is Coulter Nuanez deciding to go to school? And, of course, he's been recruited by 160 of them at the FBS level. So what school is 4-star safety or 2-star center Coulter Nuanez going to play at?
You know, that's a tough one. I'm going to guess that he's going to want to go probably – I'm going to go with Oregon.
Don't answer the question now because I have a guess at this, Coulter.
Okay.
In fact, I got 2 guesses, and they're both right. You're either going to UNLV or Nevada Reno. Those are the 2 schools that you are going to play football for. Am I right?
I mean,
you're a Nevada born.
If I could actually be what I really wanted to be, I'd be a 4-star middle linebacker going to Penn State. But in the reality of my non-athletically gifted self, which, make no mistake, if you're going to Nevada, Reno, or UNLV, you're a great player. I mean,
no doubt.
You're a Mountain West recruit.
This is a little bit of just
some
pie in the sky, isn't it?
no doubt. But I think a 2-star center at UNR playing for the Wolfpack, that'd be pretty fun.
Oh, man.
The chances of me making it to my 5th year, very unlikely.
Very low. Okay. Now so ultimately though, if you were picking Penn State, that's where you're going. Happy Valley.
If I could have it all, if I could really be what my dream would be, it would be I would be a middle linebacker at Penn State. That's what I wanted to be when I was 10 years old, no question.
Okay. This is fun. This is great. Great work, David, putting this together. Okay. Last question for you, Jonathan. Okay.
All right.
Knowing what you know about Coulter, in what way is this recruit who's going to some school at some position revealing the school? Is he doing the hat? Is he doing the phone call? Is he on the social medias? Is he a no-show? How is Coulter letting people know where he's heading?
I'm sure Coulter would honestly just do the no-show type thing, but I could also see him doing social media and putting together some kind of video montage with him at the end on top of a mountain doing something, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, so like a video, like an edited video highlight reel of him being sweet, and then at the end, Penn State.
Yep, exactly.
Coulter, how in fact would you reveal the school?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's a no-show.
I would let the school announce it.
Yes,
yeah.
You are absolutely right about that. Jonathan, congratulations. You got a basket of wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern for your trouble. Excellently done by you there. I think you've assessed him very well. Actually, I don't. I think 4-star safety is a poor assessment of my friend Coulter. But outside of that, I think you did an excellent job. Give your information to David there in the back. Thanks so much. All right?
All right. Thank you, guys.
You got it. We will do that again, by the way, at the top of the hour, and it will be roles reversed. It will be Coulter's turn to ask the questions, and you will be guessing for me. So stick around with us 20 minutes. We'll do that. But next, what we're going to do is get you all set up with Joey McMurray. Who's Joey McMurray? Well, speaking of Oregon, he is the play-by-play voice for the Oregon Ducks men's basketball team. Oregon hosting the Grizzlies in men's basketball tonight. So go ahead and tune in. That's on the Pac-12 network, but Oregon, the number 8 team in the nation, they have been fantastic so far this year. They're coming off a win over number 5 Michigan in Ann Arbor. So that's pretty good. So you go ahead and check that out, and we will have Joey McMurray on right after this. Coulter, you know what? If you got to have a place to eat, what you do, maybe one place you might want to go check out. They have a garden. Now, I realize it's winter now, but they got fresh food that they're growing that they take in and make it for you right there on the spot. Always bringing in fresh food, even in the winter months, and it's open all year round, even when the golfing's not.
And the connection between the garden and the ducks are the pesticides in the garden. So it's all organic food, and the ducks eat any of the little pests that it might get on there. So sustainable and delicious. Go check out the Iron Grizz at the University of Montana Golf Course, 515 South Avenue East.
Joey McMurray, next.
If you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift, think spicy. 'Tis the season for seasoning with gift packs from Alpine Touch. 4-spice pack includes 4 Big Mountain flavors for just $19.99. Go to alpinetouch.com right now for gifts sure to keep mouths watering year-round. And if you plug in the code ESPN at checkout, you'll get a free bag of Alpine Touch sunflower seeds. From gift packs to gift cards to the Grand Slam package, Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift for anyone on your list. Go to alpinetouch.com right now to order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box store. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit B6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
'Tis the season for a festive holiday feast at the Montana Club with mouth-watering dishes like our cranberry brie walnut tarts and pork Diane, or savor our Chardonnay salmon or blackened shrimp fillet. Be sure to wrap up your celebration with our decadent pecan rum raisin cake, all available for a limited time only through January 5th. See the full menu at montanaclub.com. Happy holidays from all of us at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Bethel Community Church offers a free clothes closet that is open to the public each Tuesday. There are literally thousands of new and gently used items for the entire family in virtually all sizes. There's a good selection of cold weather clothing as well as casual, dress, and professional clothing, shoes, coats, and more. People are invited to take whatever they need. Call Bethel Community Church for more information, 721-2780, or visit www.bethelmissoula.com.
Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Joey McMurray, the voice of the Oregon Ducks. They host Montana Grizzlies tonight. Men's basketball, 9 o'clock, Pac-12 Network. He joins us just a moment. Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. White Stripes. Famous. Coulter, before we get to Joey McMurray, though, we want to hook the people up. I mean, we're coming down the stretch here, okay, on Christmas coming up and everything like that.
Yep.
Sometimes, you don't want to worry about cooking something. Maybe you just want to go out with a couple of friends, have one of the good brews about town. What about the Lolo Peak Brewery? Can we give the people a $25 gift card to go up there, get some banh mi tacos, get a chicken sandwich, get a nice cold beer,
Absolutely. I mean, last time we were up there, we had delicious chicken sandwiches. I thought that they were outstanding. You had a stout.
Same thing.
You had a stout beer that was very good as well. And it's one of the most family-friendly places as well. It's huge spaces. I mean, it's a little bit cold outside, but you can still sit on the back deck. I know Montanans, they're tough. I mean, enjoy the crisp, cool air. Watch the sunset. It's a great place for families. It's a great place for friends. It's a great place to gather. Good beer, good food. So go check out Lolo Peak Brewery. And if you give us a call right now, 329-1899, we got a $25 gift card to you to Lolo Peak Brewery. We're open 11 a.m. till 9 p.m. on the weekdays. You can find all the other info, lolopeakbrewery.com. So give us a call, 329-1899. Got $25 to Lolo Peak Brewery just for you.
Well, off we go now to the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. We welcome in the voice of the Oregon Ducks men's basketball team, Joey McMurray. Joey, thanks so much for being with us. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Anytime, fellas. Going to be fun. I'm excited for Wednesday's matchup with Oregon and Montana. Should be a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. The Grizzlies have made this sort of a standard under Travis DeCuire of playing big time. High major basketball teams on the road and then trying to get some W's in Missoula. So this will be, I think, what is this, Coulter? The fifth high major team the Grizzlies will have played this year, but Oregon, the best of the group. Talk to us just about Oregon right now and then the matchup a little bit as you see it, Joey.
Yeah, Oregon's had a solid start to the season. Up to number 8 in the Associated Press poll. The first net rankings coming out there at 17. And I think that it's where the Ducks want to be. Half of Oregon's schedule so far has been against top 25 opponents, actually top 15 opponents. Now, Seton Hall and North Carolina have dropped out of the top 25 since the Ducks beat them. So if they handed Memphis a loss earlier this year, they did beat Seton Hall, who dropped out, lost to North Carolina, lost to Gonzaga in overtime by 1, and then just recently beat Michigan in Ann Arbor. And that was actually the highest-ranked non-conference foe that Oregon has ever defeated on the road in program history. So half of the schedule for the Ducks has been top 15 opponents, and they've played the best. They're battle tested, and maybe the scariest thing is Montana might be the first team that sees N'Faly Dante, the outstanding freshman who reclassified into this year's recruiting class, had to get some I's dotted and T's crossed with the NCAA for his eligibility, but he's now with the team. He made the trip to Michigan. That was the first game that he could have played in, but he hadn't practiced. He didn't get his debut against the Wolverines. He may get his debut against Montana. I'm curious to see in practice over the next couple days what he looks like, what he brings to the table, because it sure looks like the Ducks have been missing that big-time shot blocker, and, well, that's exactly what he may bring to the table. So it's been a good start to the season and a lot of talent on this Oregon men's basketball team, and maybe an injection of talent coming here shortly.
Oregon has been really good in basketball for 20-plus years, but even then it seems like they're overshadowed by football, even though they've been to the Final Four and everything. But it's rare that you get the best of the best of the best, a top 10 type guy to come to Eugene. How did Oregon manage to land this kid, and what sort of hype is there around him coming to Eugene to play for the Ducks?
Well, I'll never forget when the Ducks made it to the Final Four, and Dana Altman, who has a very self-depreciating sense of humor, I'll put it that way, he said, well, all the guys that didn't used to pick up the phone, now all of a sudden they're picking up the phone when we call after you get into the Final Four. And that was a big reason why guys like Tony Stubblefield, who is one of the big recruiting assistant coaches for the Ducks, he was able to get guys like Bol. And then Mike Benega, who has a lot of connections around the country in recruiting. He was one that kind of started the Canadian connection for the Ducks, and they've had a few of those guys over the years. And now as time's gone on, it's just become more clear that Oregon, with the connection to Nike, that's obvious. Everyone knows that that's a big deal to these guys. But that's how they've been able to get players like Bol, Troy Brown, Lewis King. I mean, there's been some really big-time players, and the latest is N'Faly Dante. And then, the other guy, too, everyone's talking about Dante, but DJ Walker was a 5-star recruit coming into this year's recruiting class as well. So I think getting into the Final Four was really I guess maybe the push that Oregon needed over that final hump to get some of these big-time guys. And certainly the Nike connection helps the facilities around here, but it's also Dana Altman. I mean, his teams they've been good. He's one of just a few coaches out there that consistently has 20-win seasons, and he recently became Oregon's all-time winningest coach. He passed Ernie Kent in that category. So I think it's a combination of things, but those are probably the biggest factors why they've been able to get some of these big-time players. And, I mean, look, the Ducks are going to continue, I think, to get those big-time players because you look around college basketball, and I think, at least in my opinion, that you've got to have a combination of those outstanding freshmen that come in and make big contributions and veterans. And I think that's what Dana Altman and the Ducks are looking for, is to find that right combination. And it sure seems like they're getting there.
Balancing that, though, is so interesting in this day and age in college basketball because you see some teams like Duke and Kentucky that have just gone all in, get 4 or 5 or 6 even one-and-done guys. So, how does Coach Altman do it? Because it's interesting. Very few programs can balance the guys that might be one-and-done type talents while also cultivating talent like Peyton Pritchard and getting him to his senior year. So, how do you think Coach Altman's been able to do this in this landscape of college basketball?
It's been kind of an up-and-down deal for Coach Altman. He actually told me this year that, frankly, he thought that the Ducks would be a little bit more experienced this year, and that's part of why they scheduled up. And they have all these big top 15 matchups on their schedule, but then guys like Lewis King left for the draft, Kenny Wooten left for the draft, and I think it raised a few eyebrows. So what really I think has been the key to Oregon's success to kind of get over that, for lack of a better phrase, roster turnover that's maybe a little earlier than coaches want. It's been the graduate transfer. Shakur Houston, who the Ducks have been without for the last couple games, he transferred from UNLV as a graduate transfer, and he's been a really big contributor for the Ducks. He averaged 11-9 last year for UNLV in a shortened season due to injury, and he's been doing that for the Ducks this year. Then I think about a guy like Anthony Mathis, who at New Mexico was a really, really good player, broke pretty much every three-point shooting record that New Mexico had, and now as a redshirt senior, he transfers in to play for the Ducks, and he's from Oregon. He's a West Linn kid, but he developed somewhere else, and now the Ducks have another veteran sharpshooter. And then they've even got another couple guys that are redshirting this year in Eugene Omarui, who Montana fans won't see him, and Eric Williams Jr., another guy that Montana fans won't see. But they've helped Oregon a lot in practice because even though they're redshirting due to those transfer rules this year, they're both really, really good players that help the Ducks in practice tremendously. So I think that all of that, the graduate transfers, has really helped. The Ducks have some veterans in the right places. Even if they're not veterans of Oregon basketball, they're veterans of college basketball, and I think that's been a big key.
Joey McMurray joining us. He's the voice of the Oregon Ducks men's basketball team. The Ducks hosting the Montana Grizzlies Wednesday night, 9 o'clock Central Time, if you're looking for it. A late tip-off there in Eugene on Wednesday evening. And one thing I'm interested in here, Joey, is what is the benefit of these games for a program like Oregon? I mean, they play North Carolina, Gonzaga, and Michigan, then they also play Montana, Texas Southern, Alabama State. So when Dana's putting a schedule together, you want to have some challenges, and you also want to have some games that you can maybe work on some stuff. But what do you think that games like Montana does for an Oregon program?
Well, it's funny that you asked that because I asked Coach Altman about schedule strategy actually this past weekend when we were in Ann Arbor, and he kind of looked at me and smiled and said, well, everybody does it a little bit differently, and if everybody had a right way to do it, then everybody would be undefeated because we'd all be doing it the same way. I mean, I think for Oregon, this is an opportunity to grow as a basketball team just like any game is, but you're right, it kind of is a little bit more of a risk for the Ducks because Montana's going to come in swinging, right? I mean, you always hear coaches talk about you got to swing away, and that's exactly what Montana's going to do. So I think for Oregon, this is an opportunity, though, to get better, and that's how every coach in America is going to tell you that these games mean. I mean, maybe that's a little bit of coach speak, but at the same time, it is. I mean, look back to last year. The Ducks lost a game to Texas Southern, and this was before Bol got hurt. Ducks lost a game to Texas Southern that I think everybody would agree they had no business losing at home, and they did. That was actually a big learning experience for the Ducks because they kind of took a few plays off, and all of a sudden Texas Southern, a veteran team, comes charging back and wins the game. I think that there are some learning experiences for a program like Oregon here. And the other thing, too, is I actually think that it's good to play these sorts of regional games from a fan's perspective. I mean, there's not a ton of regional games out there. I'm sure, as you guys deal with too at Montana, Oregon has a tough time finding a lot of regional opponents. There's only so many schools up here that you can play, and I like that they play those sort of regional games. I think it's a positive for fan bases alike.
Yeah, very good. Well, Joey, we certainly appreciate the perspective on that stuff. I think it's good. We're excited to take a look at this game, and obviously Oregon for the first time up close for Montana fans. So looking forward to it. Have a great game Wednesday night, and appreciate you joining us.
Hey, anytime. Thanks, fellas. Should be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it.
There you go. Joey McMurray, the voice of the Oregon Ducks, again tipping off tonight at 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So just about 2 hours from now. Did I get that right? No. 4 hours from now. I mean, it's just a little simple math, Tootell. Is it that hard to do? 4 hours from now on the Pac-12 network, so go check that out. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead. Give us a call, 329-1899. We got another Wing It Wednesday. This was fun. Predicting where Coulter was going to go play football coming out of high school and what position, and how he was going to let everybody know it's the first day of the early signing period. We're going to roll reversal now. My turn, Coulter. You call up 329-1899. You're going to get wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern, and you can also decide for me, where is it that you think that I would be going to school, at what position, with how many stars, and how am I letting everybody know? Tell you, you call 329-1899. Next. Thank you for making Polaris America's best-selling off-road brand. During the Polaris Great American Thank You event, financing is as low as 3.99% and rebates go as high as $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle everything from mountains to mud holes in a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or elevate your adventure in a versatile Polaris General. Now is the time to get the season's best deals on America's best-selling off-road lineup, with financing as low as 3.99%, APR for 36 months, and rebates up to $3,500 during the Polaris Great American Thank You at Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. All the best machines, gear, apparel, and accessories to enjoy winter this year are at Kurtz. Go check out their 2020 snowmobile inventory right now, and all the clothing, helmets, gloves, hats, and jackets to keep you safe, warm, and looking great at Kurtz Polaris and KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 12/31/19 on new 2016 through 2020 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
There's a saying, opportunity never knocks twice. When you're ready to take advantage of your next opportunity, look to your local bank. Opportunity Bank of Montana. Opportunity Bank offers options for mortgage loans, small business loans, equipment financing, agriculture, and more. Our experienced team can provide solutions to help you welcome your next big opportunity. There's nothing like the feeling of progress. So let's get started today. Come see us at your local Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to BorgenProject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy, education, and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
If you are hurt or disabled, you may be entitled to benefits from an insurance company or Social Security. I'm Chris Helmer, an attorney at Clark Fork Law Offices. Our Missoula firm specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. There are many unknowns when injured or disabled. The other side is fighting hard. You should too. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana. KKVU HD3 Stevensville and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. The early signing period for college football opened today with national letters of intent coming through for both Montana and Montana State. The University of Montana signed 17 players, and 7 of those are from the state of Montana. They include a Hamilton quarterback Carson Rostad, who was the 2018 Montana Gatorade Player of the Year and the all-time most prolific quarterback in Class A history. UM also received letters from Missoula Sentinel running back Jackson Lee, Kalispell Glacier wide receiver Drew Deck, and Wolfpack defensive lineman Henry Noose, among others.
Montana State signed 22 players on Wednesday, including 2019 Montana Gatorade Player of the Year Tommy Malott out of Butte High. Malott, one of 4 Mining City natives to sign. He led the Bulldogs to their second state championship game appearance since 1991. Threw for almost 3,000 yards, rushed for more than 1,200, 46 total touchdowns. A total of 10 Montanans signed with the Bobcats, including Bozeman High's McCade O'Reilly and Jake DiAgostino, Billings West defensive back Connor Ryan, Butte Central offensive lineman Aaron Richards, and the cherry on top, Brody Grebe, who comes to Montana State from Choate Prep School by way of Millstone, Montana.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law.
You want to do a Wing It Wednesday? Head over to the Desperado Sports Tavern. Get yourself some wings from the Desperado. Give us a call, 329-1899. Call right now, 329-1899. All guests join us via the Raggage Brothers RV phone line. And I can promise you this, you're going to win because it's subjective questions today about where I would be going to play college football since it is the first day of the early signing period. 329-1899. Call in. Coulter will ask you some questions about how I envision my college career going out of high school, and we'll have a little fun with it, okay? It is Tootell and Nuanez. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. You can also check us out live on the World Wide Web if you would like, 1029ESPN.com. You can listen live on the Listen Live tab. You go ahead and do that there. And listen to us thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. And also, if you want to listen on your own time, maybe live just doesn't work for you today, maybe you're out of town, whatever it is, go to the podcast. The podcast available wherever your podcasts, you ever check those out, wherever you download them from. We will be there for you. The Tootell and Nuanez podcast, available all the time. And it is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. All right, we're going out to the phones. We welcome in AC to the show. AC, how you doing?
Good, great. Actually, I got through, so I'm fired up.
Well, we're happy about that. We're excited to have you fired up here, and it's nice to call in knowing that you're already a winner. Here's the deal, AC. It's a little something different for you. Colt is going to ask you questions that are theories about me, and you're going to have to tell him in honor of the first day of the signing period here in college football, what position I would be playing coming out of high school and how many stars recruit I would be, what school, FBS school I would be attending, and how I'm going to let everybody know that, okay? So that is the thing that you got to figure out. Can you do that for us today?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Boys, some chicken wings have really hit the spot.
All right, man. I'm excited.
Tell me likey. Tell me want wingy.
All right, AC. He's ready to go. Coulter, let's go. Let's give him some questions.
AC, if Ryan was a high school senior, prized high school football recruit coming out of high school,
prized
what
indeed.
position would he play and how many stars would he be ranked with?
Man, I got to be nice to him. I think I've met him before. I think he'd probably be either a tight end or maybe a running back. And I would think maybe a two-star athlete.
Now, here's what I like about AC. Now, we've evidently met at some point. That's great. He said he's going to be nice to me, and he is by giving me 2 stars.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is a 0-star recruit, if ever there was one. That is for sure. Running back, if the word running is in it, there is no chance that I'm doing it, okay? So tight end, you're probably right about the tight end thing. If I'm coming out of high school, though, and I'm calling my shot, you know darn well I am a 5-star defensive end. Period. End of story. I am a mountain of a high school man. You know what I mean? 6'6", already 275, already repping it out 32 times, still running a sub-5. But, you're probably more accurate than I am on that. Okay, question number 2.
All right, number 2, this 2-star tight end or 5-star D end, regardless. Where is he going? What school is Ryan Tootell going to choose on National Signing Day?
So you're FBS, right?
Yep.
The bowl series here. So bowl series.
There's so many right answers here too, AC. I'm telling you.
You guys love the Northwest, and so I would think Washington or Washington State would have to be your go-to in FBS. I don't know. Maybe Boise. I don't know.
Yeah, so let me tell you something. Go ahead. No, I don't want to cut you off now. I think I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Boise because that field, man. Got to go with the field because that field is just epic. I do love Boise. I've had family in Boise. We have spent time in Boise. Coulter and I have. It's a wonderful city. If it was the Northwest, it would probably be Washington. Although all 3 of those are good. There's also a lot of reason, if you listen to the show, why I might be headed to Bowling Green. Maybe Miami of Ohio.
Why?
The MAC, get a little Tuesday night football going. But here's the deal.
What about Scotty?
If I'm a 5-star defensive end, and this sounds like front running, but I promise you it's not. This has been on my radar I'm going to LSU. Put me in Death Valley. That's the life I want to live. However, Coulter, you have hit the nail on the head. If I am a 2-star tight end, and God bless you for giving me both of those stars, I am going to Camp Randall. I am playing in front of my family in Madison, Wisconsin at the University of Dub from a whole pack of Badgers. So that is also a right answer. So maybe no wrong answers. I'll go wherever they take me, which evidently everyone will take me if I'm understanding it correctly. So yeah, give me Wisconsin and Paul Christ and the whole deal all day long. All right, excellent. Coulter, question number 3 for AC.
All right, AC, number 3. Ryan Tootell, the 5-star defensive end that is going to LSU. How is he revealing his choice?
It's warm down there. It wouldn't be a beanie. It'd have to be a ball cap.
I would.
If you're going Northwest, I'd say let's go beanie. But you're going to LSU, Coach O, and when you get the Heisman, you're going to be crying. So I'm going to go with the ball cap.
Now, first of all, anybody who says that didn't get him there on the emotional scale on the Joe Burrow, they're lying to you. Love that on the Joe Burrow. You are, first of all, there would 100% be a hat on, but that ain't all. Okay, that's the start of this whole thing. There's a lot of legwork in this one. I would be special ordering from China on a cargo ship months in advance a firework display to shoot out LSU in purple and gold and tigers. They could do the happy faces now. I want to see tiger faces in the sky as the exploding fireworks tell the world where it is that I'm headed to, okay? That's how I'm doing it. None of this no-show business like this offensive lineman he's out fishing. I am going to ride this thing the whole way because here's what we know for sure. It's the last time anyone's going to talk about me going to college to play any sport. Is the day I sign. That's it. That's all. You'll never hear from me again. AC, excellently done by you as well, my friend. Give your information to David there in the back. You're headed to the Desperado for some wings, okay?
All right, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, I got 2 stars out of AC. I'm feeling great about this. You know how good you got to be a 2-star recruit?
Oh, man. It's so much of it depends on where you grow up. Man,
who sees you?
I don't know.
Don't do it. Don't hurt the people today.
What star rating would Troy Anderson? He would have grown up in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
4 stars, and he had no stars because he went to no camps, and he got recruited by 2 schools. And
that's right.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's just the way it is.
You would be a 2-star tight end going to Minnesota Duluth or Wisconsin Whitewater to prioritize your philosophy,
How about
education.
Pacific Lutheran. I mean, we could do that.
Yeah, no, you're
D3 world.
You're too much of a cheesehead, dude.
Got to go to the Midwest.
You're spelling it all out.
Well, no, I mean, if I'm doing this on the educational side, because here's the thing, like, man, I'm going to burn a lot of bridges with this here. I mean, we're all friends, right? I can say this. I don't really want to go to I don't want to. I've lived in the Midwest. I don't want to live in the Midwest. I don't, I love it there. I don't want to go. I don't want to live there.
That's going to New Mexico.
I mean, that's no. I also lived in New Mexico, and I like New Mexico. You want me to play basketball in the pit? You got me all day. I don't want to play football
New
for
Mexico,
the Lobos.
Dead.
Dude, LSU is worse.
Oh, yeah.
Way worse.
The desert heat compared to the swamp.
Oh, not close, bud. Not close.
It's probably more uncomfortable and hotter at LSU, but you're risking death way more in the desert.
I have to shower, full body showered, every time I trim my mustache. That's how much I hate itching. Okay, because a couple little hairs land in the beard, and then I go nuts. My wife cutting my hair, lose my mind. Okay, you put me in that honey dip bayou with a bunch of mosquitoes and flies, I will collapse. I won't even come out for the games. You want to talk about building a dome, to play football in the north? Build some domes in the south, people. Build a dome. It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Dan Davies is the subject of our ESPN Roundtable. He is the Assistant Athletic Director, Associate Athletic Director, Internal Ops at Montana State. He also played football at Montana State in the late 70s. He was also a coach on the Montana State staff in the early 80s, notably covering not one but two national championships, including the most recent one in 1984 with Montana State. The Cats are in the national semifinal against North Dakota State. He joins us as the subject of our ESPN Roundtable. Next.
Hey, Colter Nuanez from Tootell Nuanez. You need a great place for a Christmas gift? I got a spot for you. Aspen Sound in Missoula. They got all the hookups for everything you could possibly need for your vehicles. What are some of the sweet things you got going on down there, Tom?
Thanks, Colter. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto have sure been popular this year for safety and convenience. You can do text messaging, maps, pretty much everything you need, phone calls, music, everything right from the touch of your radio. We also have remote car starters, as you know, and window tint. Lots of goodies at a great price. Come on down and see us.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment and brakes and shocks and wheels and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer all that. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep at night, because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more than tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1950.
On Russell, across from the fairground.
You know what's at stake after a car accident? Not only will you have to deal with pushy insurance companies, auto repair shops, endless doctor's appointments, and dozens of unforeseen problems, but also your normal day-to-day life. I'm Colter here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys, and she knows how hard this can be.
That's right. And with all of that, it can seem tempting to take the quick settlement that the insurance company is offering. But I can tell you from experience that it is not going to be a fair amount. I see it all the time where someone has settled with the insurance company and months later realizes that they still have pain from the accident. And now they're having to pay those bills out of their pocket. I don't want that to happen to anyone.
So what should our listeners do, Catherine?
Give us a call and discuss your situation with an attorney. The call is free and we'll gladly talk about your situation with you. If you have a case that we can help with, you will owe us nothing out of pocket. We actually make the insurance company pay for us to help you.
There you have it. Call the Advocates at 406-640-4444 or go online, montanaadvocates.com. You deserve the Advocates on your side.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Last May, Ten Spoon Winery partnered with the Historical Museum with Hello to Old Missoula, Missoula's History Through Art, an event where attendees voted on their favorite piece of art, which would become the next Ten Spoon wine label. Votes were counted, and Megan Odell's piece depicting the 1990s Roxy Theater fire was the winner. Now you can drink wine for history, as Ten Spoon is dedicating a portion from every bottle of Roxy Fire wine sold to the Historical Museum. Find it now at local retailers or call 406-549-8703.
ESPN Missoula.
Good evening, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. The first day of the early signing period was today, and a bunch of letters of intent came in for Montana and Montana State. The Grizzlies signed 17 players total today, including 7 from the state of Montana. From Montana, that includes Hamilton quarterback Carson Rostad, the 2018 Montana Gatorade Player of the Year. He's also the all-time most prolific quarterback in Class A history. They also got letters of intent from Missoula Sentinel running back Jackson Lee, Glacier wide receiver Drew Deck, Wolfpack defensive lineman Henry Noose, and Bozeman running back turned linebacker Asher Croy.
Montana State, they signed 22, including 10 from the state of Montana, and one of those, 2019 Montana Gatorade Player of the Year, Tommy Malott out of Butte. Malott led Butte High to its second Class AA state championship game appearance since 1991 by throwing for nearly 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns and rushing for more than 1,216 more scores. Malott is joined by 9 other prospects from Montana, including Bozeman High linebacker McKade O'Reilly, former Hawks QB Jake DiAgostino, Billings West defensive back Connor Ryan, Colstrip defensive lineman Trey Yates, a group of others, including Brody Grebe, a prep school transfer originally from Millstone, Montana.
It is time, as we do every Wednesday around here, for our ESPN Roundtable. It's also available tomorrow at noon. If you'd like to re-listen to it. It is also available on the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series at SkylineSportsMT.com, so you can listen to it there as well. It is Tootell and Nuanez. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. Want to remind everybody, we've been telling you about this, but Friday, okay, this is Wednesday, 48 hours from now, we're going to be live doing the show 4 to 6 at the Southgate Mall, okay? Come on down to the mall. It's December the 20th, boys and girls, on that Friday. Why am I telling you this? Well, because you will not have your shopping done. Why do I know? You listen to this show, okay? That's all I need to know that you are not planning ahead, okay? You listen to this show, you're not a planner. That's a one-to-one mapping, I guarantee it. So come on down to the Southgate Mall Friday, 4 to 6. Hang out with us. Do some last-minute shopping. We'll even be around till 7 o'clock hanging out. We got a bunch of stuff to give away to AMC. That's the movie theater over there. Beautiful new movie theater. Lucky's Market, Just Sports, Champ Sports, and also to Red Robin. So we got a bunch of stuff to give away. We'll have some swag for you as well. But come on over, 4 to 6, the show at Southgate Mall. We'll be right there at the Clock Court in the sort of food court clock area there. Pretty unmissable. You know the intersection. You know what I'm talking about. So come on by, hang out with us on Friday. We'll have a lot of fun. It's time now for our ESPN Roundtable. It is presented by Paradise Falls, and this week it is Dan Davies, who is the associate AD at Montana State, also played football in the 70s, was a coach on the staff in the 80s, he was the women's golf coach for a decade, Coulter,
yes,
is that right? And has been also on the radio doing the call and all that. So he's a lifer with Montana State and was also directly a part of the last 2 football national championships, and Montana State playing Saturday in a third in their most recent one. They've won 3. This will be their 4th national championship that they're gunning for in Fargo, starting in Fargo on Saturday. So here you go. Enjoy this week's ESPN Roundtable.
it's full disclosure. Scout went for All-American. That was my role. I got banged around a lot. Yeah, that's no question. Now, Saturday. I the fact that I tried what the situation is there. He first he laid it all out. We tried throughout the last 4 years. We're going to rebuild it. We might lose big at first. People are going to lose close. People are going to win close. Watch the program develop and evolve. Good start. It's going to be because we talk about somebody that does speak like this. Right now, these people are here I am. Was it just what was first hired? What you think about hiring? Now that you have brought this vision to fruition, no question. No question. How impressed I am. I am impressed. Not year from year, day from day. One thing that understand straight he spends a lot. You can't think about tomorrow. Next season, so he's gonna good Dave Arnold from over at the funny little bit of research on the other people who want to know. I played on the night in 1984. That time period, 78 through 83. What was Montauk football like?
Yeah. Good. And we just checked. Right. But nonetheless, so I could go on.
We love doing the old stories. I remember when I did the lecture at Wolf. It is a great story. How much do you think that might be the reason?
We were pretty darn good. We but the 86 really really folks wear that. I, whoever win. Yeah, more than welcome. Another note. Got a 30. It's so. Tootell. No. Right.
Well, it certainly will, and our thanks to Dan Davies for joining us on the ESPN Roundtable. Really fun to talk with him. Again, the Associate Athletic Director, Internal Operations at Montana State, wide receiver, and position coach for the football team in the late 70s and early 80s, and has been at Montana State the whole way through. So nobody knows more than he does when it comes to that. It's our ESPN Roundtable. And it is presented by Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls at 3621 Brook Street on the south end of Missoula near the intersection of Brooks and Reserve. You know where it's at. It's been there forever. It's a Missoula original over there on the south end of town in Coulter. Not a lot of options on that end of things. They got everything. They got SWX television. If you're looking for a bunch of basketball, you were mentioned. We got the whole slate of what's going on SWX, live basketball from high school all the way up to Big Sky Conference hoops. You want to watch it? You go to Paradise Falls. It's just that easy. They can put anything on for you.
No doubt. If you were looking for a place to watch this Grizz Montana men's basketball game tonight against Oregon, they got you covered. Pac-12 Network, 30 big screen TVs, 18 draft beers.
And it tips off at 9 o'clock. What else tips off at 9?
Late
Coulter?
happy hour.
Now.
$3 beers, half-price cocktails, half-price appetizers. Let's go see them over at Paradise Falls, 3621 Brook Street, Paradise Falls, Missoula's coolest hotspot.
Come back. We'll wrap this thing up next.
If you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift, it's spicy. It is the season for seasoning with gift packs from Alpine Tech. 4-spice pack includes 4 Big Mountain flavors for just $19.99. Go to alpinetouch.com right now for gifts sure to keep mouths watering year-round. If you plug in the code ESPN at checkout, you'll get a free bag of Alpine Touch sunflower seeds. From gift packs to gift cards to the Grand Slam package, Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift for anyone on your list. Go to alpinetouch.com right now to order Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
'Tis the season for a festive holiday feast at the Montana Club with mouth-watering dishes like our cranberry brie walnut tarts and pork Diane, or savor our Chardonnay salmon or blackened shrimp fillet. Be sure to wrap up your celebration with our decadent pecan rum raisin cake, all available for a limited time only through January 5th. See the full menu at montanaclub.com. Happy holidays from all of us at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Whatever your you it's the right the hardest thing to do is treat all of it before Farmers Bank makes it easier than ever to start the loan with checklist forms. The dream home is out. Get started today at Farmers. Farmers. Under
Coughlin out as Executive Vice President of Football Operations for the Jacksonville Jaguars. How about that? We're not going to talk about it. I just thought you should know. That's news. That's Adam Schefter tweeting about it, and now you know. We're going to talk about transfer quarterback for the last 5 minutes of this show. It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. The podcast available wherever you get your podcasts, and it is there next to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Rate it, review it, subscribe to it. We appreciate all that. Go give it a listen. We're rolling on the podcast. And again, remember, Friday we're going to be at the Southgate Mall 4 to 6. Come on down. We'll be there hanging out even for an hour afterwards, giving away gift cards, prizes to a bunch of different mall businesses. So come hang out with us. By the way, I know you're looking for something to get your family, okay? Maybe you got somebody who's a car lover, truck lover in your life. Go to Shine Auto Detailing. You're a normal human. You have last-minute shopping to do, and you freak out because you're running out of ideas. Well, the most simple and best thing you can do, get a gift card to Shine Auto Detailing. From hunters and sports fans to soccer moms, everyone loves a fresh ride. Right now, online gift cards are on sale. You save $25 on every $100 gift card. That's 25%, people. That's the math right there. I learned that one day somewhere along the line. Hey, do something new for your spouse. Give them a Shine Auto Detailing e-gift card. Save $25, and they're delivered instantly. Go to shineautodetailing.net and click gift card, shineautodetailing.net. This offer expires at midnight on December 24th, okay? Right up all the way to the buzzer. All right, go do it now. Coulter, it is the first day of the early signing period, and there's a bunch of high school kids, obviously, building for the future. Transfers, though, they're the ones where you go, okay, is this somebody who's going to be playing right away? And Montana and Montana State both got a transfer. Who's a quarterback? How about that? Robbie Patterson for the University of Montana comes from Medford, Oregon, by way of Saddleback Community College. Saddleback, a pretty well-known community college at this point, and is going to fit in as a, younger, a junior, I think, coming in now to his junior season this next year. So he will be behind Cam Humphrey and ahead of Garrett Graves in terms of order of year. But also, I think it's a guy that they're pretty high on. But I know Montana State, Coulter, they got a kid from North Carolina State, the Wolfpack. They're pumped up about it as well.
Yeah, Matt McKay will be one of the best athletes, certainly, playing quarterback in the Big Sky Conference. Remains to be seen if he can be one of the best quarterbacks, but I know that Montana State thinks he can be. What does that mean for Montana State's quarterback room? This is going to be really fascinating. Jeff Choate addressed it during his press conference today. Sorry we didn't have any sound from that because it didn't start until 3, and in Jeff Choate fashion, it went until 4. I'm not kidding. He talked for 57 minutes.
He does a full bio on every single player.
He did a full PowerPoint presentation, and then he had the kids' position coach, future position coach, as well as primary recruiter stand up and talk about each of them.
Yeah.
It's amazing what they do over there at Montana State. He had a full graphic of all the states and where all the kids are from and stuff.
Love graphics, love maps.
They have an impressive graphic design program at Montana State and impressive graphic designers. But Matt McKay, they're high on him, but he's entering a room where there's a guy like Tucker Rovig, who was a huge question mark the first half of the season, then became not a question mark or anything, just kind of a placeholder, and then became pretty good and has been solid and has done everything, no doubt, what Montana State has asked him to do. But he's only a sophomore, but now you're bringing a transfer in to directly compete with him. How does he react? How does Matt McKay react from being an ACC guy that comes to Montana State? How does Casey Bauman react? What does this mean for a variety of other quarterbacks on the Montana State roster? Ruben Beltran entered the transfer portal yesterday. He's been Montana State's third-string quarterback, so he's out. They still have young players like Blake Thielen out of Great Falls, who was a good player, signed with them last year, so he'll be a redshirt freshman this upcoming year. But they also signed Tommy Malott, who knows if he plays quarterback at Montana State or not. They also signed Jake DiAgostino from Bozeman High, who led the Hawks to state championship. So as the trend continues, they had 19 former high school quarterbacks on their roster entering today, and then they just signed a bunch more. We'll see where they find spots on the field for these guys. As far as Robbie Patterson goes, did not surprise me one bit that Bobby Hauck brought in a transfer quarterback. He always does when he knows he's going to have a starting quarterback competition, whether that's a guy from the JC ranks or an FBS drop down. Robbie Patterson, he had good stats at Saddleback. He threw for 2,575 yards, 20 touchdowns, and completed about 62% of his passes, only 8 picks. I think that picks are always a translatable stat. And, not to pour salt in an open wound right now for Grizz followers, but Dalton Snead threw a bunch of picks in junior college. And he threw a bunch of picks at the University of Montana. He was good this year until he exploded in the Weber State game. But I guess what I'm saying is if you can rebound at the college level, you can rebound at the NBA level. Just like if you throw a bunch of picks at any level of college, you're probably going to keep throwing picks. Robbie Patterson did not throw picks, so we'll see how that translates. But it's going to be interesting to see two guys with Saddleback junior college backgrounds, Cam Humphrey and Robbie Patterson, competing with Chris Brown for the starting quarterback job next year. I think those are the three front runners. I highly doubt the Garrett Graves. I think they'll probably give him a chance in spring ball to keep learning it. But the fact that he was actually in the rotation at receiver, I think they understand they need to get him on the field in some form or fashion. He's just a great athlete. We saw him on special teams. He's probably their special teams player of the year this year, right? I mean, or at least one of.
Yeah.
So I think you got to find a spot for him, whether it's on offense or defense. But no rest for the weary. They brought in quarterback transfers at both schools. Even though we've gotten a glimpse of Cam Humphrey, Tucker Rovig is a sophomore starter. The competition never ceases, both on the recruiting trail and when it comes to the quarterback position.
I know that we don't have a ton of time to really flesh this out. It's just always intriguing to me. Quarterback is the most important position on the field. Okay, nobody I think is arguing that at this point in time. That said, I think it seems like a big deal because it is such a visible position. This is happening at every position. I mean, I realize in this instance there's not other transfers that are coming in. They're just younger kids, but there's competition at every single position, and it matters as much to your offensive lineman or your linebacker as it does your quarterback.
Except for those other positions you can rotate a lot more and you can still play.
Hey, don't tell Montana State you can't rotate a quarterback. Tootell, Nuanez, boys and girls, been a fun Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow. Look forward to it. Have a wonderful night tonight. Enjoy Grizz Oregon basketball. See you in 22 hours.
Shopping local matters. You may think you pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, locally owned, knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box store. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit 6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Down pump, pump it up, pump it up.
Get energized at your local Down Pump. Monster or Rain energy drink, 2 for $4. And 12 packs of Coke products for only $4.99. Down Pump has everything you need to get you through the day. They're right down the road.
Down pump, right down the road, pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Here's a saying, opportunity never knocks twice. When you're ready to take advantage of your next opportunity, look to your local Opportunity Bank of Montana. Opportunity Bank offers options for mortgage loans, small business loans, equipment financing, agriculture, and more. Our experienced team can provide solutions that help you welcome your next big opportunity. There's nothing like the feeling of progress. So let's get started today. Come see us at your local Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine from the Advocate Injury Attorney.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and take on the hassle for you so you can focus.
If you've been injured in an accident, give the Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at Montana Advocate. The Advocate.
On K275BS Missoula.